By this point, I have tried just about every Lightroom alternative that there is out there, but DxO PhotoLab is the one that has surprised me the most. Unlike many Lightroom alternatives, you won't find many creative effects or filters. In fact, you won't even find a way of adding film grain to your photos. But instead what you get is the most accurate photo editor I have ever used. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you if it's worth the $240 price tag. So let's start with the overview of everything. When you first open it, on the left side you will see your file browser on the left panel, and that will allow you to import any of the photos that you want to use. And something I've noticed is that if you're opening up a folder with a ton of different raw photos, it can take a second for them to load, but once they're loaded in, it runs perfectly fine. And so once you import your photos, you'll be prompted for modules, which are like custom corrections for different cameras and lenses. And so once you have all of your photos imported, you can go into Customize, which is how you actually edit your photos and correct them. And I noticed that in the Customize section, it feels a little unintuitive for me. So if you open up your photo and you try and customize it, and you say you want to adjust the horizon and level out the horizon, maybe even do a little bit of a crop, if you're looking at the different tabs, it's a little hard to figure out which tab that might be under. It's just a small thing, but I did find it just a little unintuitive for my liking. But on the bright side, a lot of those tools that you would use that are kind of locked away behind those different tabs, you actually have them right there on the top bar, which is very easy to access and use in your photos. And overall, I think if you're looking at the UI, it is definitely due for a little bit of an upgrade. It kind of reminds me of like Darktable a little bit, but overall, I think it's completely fine for what it is. But apart from the UI, let's talk about the different things that I liked and didn't like about PhotoLab. So the first thing that I absolutely love about PhotoLab is the denoising. This is probably the best denoising I have ever seen in any photo editor, period. Another thing that I really liked is the modules. So like I said, when you import a photo, you will be prompted for different modules that you can download. And what these are is they have basically tested a bunch of different cameras and lenses and made bespoke adjustments so that you can get the most accurate adjustments for your camera and your lens. And outside of the automatic adjustments with like the modules and stuff, we of course get many different tools for manual adjustments as well. In fact, one of my favorite features is actually the HSL adjustment tool. I was able to push my colors pretty far without having any sort of degradation or artifacts or anything like that. And that's not something I think you would really be doing in PhotoLab, but I'll talk more about that later. And of course, just like any other Lightroom alternative these days, there is AI masking, so you can select different parts of your subject, or different parts of the background, or even just different objects in the scene, and mask those out and adjust those differently. Another pretty standard one is non-destructive cropping, which you do get in PhotoLab. They give you simple retouching tools, but of course you're not going to be doing any major retouching with PhotoLab. You'd probably want something like Affinity or Photoshop for something like that. And DxO only offers perpetual licenses, which is just music to my ears. So once you buy it, you have it forever. But with that, let's talk about some of the things I did not like about PhotoLab. For starters, there is no native tethering. So if you're someone who likes to shoot tethered, there's really no way of doing that in PhotoLab. And to me, it feels like the base version is just missing a bunch of features that a bunch of other photo editors will give you out of the box. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, there's really no way of adding film grain to your photos. And also something like a vignette. You cannot add a dark vignette around your photo. You only have options for a corrective vignette if your lens already has a vignette on it and you're trying to remove that. And what I find a little annoying about that is that if you do want those features, you would have to pay for one of their expansions, like their film pack. And that's where I came to the realization of what PhotoLab actually is in terms of a Lightroom alternative. PhotoLab, even given the name, is much more of like, I'd say a scientific tool rather than an artistic tool. I think it's more like using a scalpel versus like a knife. It gives you far more precise corrections, especially with things like the modules that are very dialed in for specific cameras and specific lenses, rather than like a blanket correction that would just be applied in something like On One or Capture One. And so what that basically means is that PhotoLab isn't going to be for everyone. And so let's talk about who it's actually going to be for. So let's start with the people I think will love PhotoLab. If you are someone who just shoots right out a camera and you do very minimal editing to your photos and you're just looking for, like good looking photos without having to go in and tweak a bunch of things and color grade and do all that sort of stuff, then PhotoLab is going to be perfect for you. As well as anyone who shoots a lot of low light photography. That denoising is truly amazing and I think you will love it. But I think if you're someone who likes going in and tweaking a bunch of different parts of the photos and like color grading and doing a bunch of different adjustments, then I don't think PhotoLab is going to be the best for you unless you were using it to correct your photos first and then you're doing all the creative effects inside of a different program. Which, at that point, I'd probably just recommend going with their Pure Raw photo editor because it gives you their correction tools at just about half the price of PhotoLab. So if you don't need all of the extra features and stuff and you're just looking for something like denoising, then Pure Raw is going to be the way to go for you. But yeah, I really liked DxO PhotoLab. I think it is a fantastic tool. I just think it needs a little bit of work in things like the UI and stuff like that. And the person who sent me the license has said that they are trying to make this a great Lightroom alternative and that they are still working constantly on it. In fact, one of the things that they have planned is to work on the UI. I do think overall it is a little bit overpriced at the $240 price mark, but because it is a perpetual license, I can't be too mad about that because it's still way cheaper than Adobe. They did also provide me with a coupon code, so if you guys use the code Sturgill at checkout, you can get 15% off of your purchase. But that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day.